welcome to all the participants who have registered to join this program. We have received very significant and massive response that we have to stop the registration since yesterday. So thank you very much, everyone, for showing your interest, your keen interest to be involved in this important session. So thank you very much, the scholars and the participants around the globe from all walks of life. It's never too late to wish everyone, the Muslim participant, Ramadan Kareem. May Allah bless all our deeds and accept all our good deeds in this holy month of Ramadan. Sheikh Dr. Elgari and Sheikh Nizam, how are you, both of you? Dr. Ali Elgari and Sheikh Nizam, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, bi khair. How are you? Can you hear me?
Very, very clear. Thank you. We miss your voice, Sheikhna.
تقبل الله صالح الأعمال.
Ameen. Dr. Elgari, are you with us?
Yes, I am with you. Can you hear me?
Oh, very clear. But
muted by you.
Yeah. Basically, we're going to unmute for all the speakers from now on. Thank you very much for joining us. Perhaps we can start off by, sharing with our participants around the globe, how is the condition over there in brief in Saudi Arabia and as well in Bahrain. Perhaps Dr. Elgari first, perhaps some flavor what is happening over there, the mood of Ramadan, how do the people go through the Ramadan and leading to the financial landscape as we speak nowadays.
Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastahdihi wa nusalli wa nusallim ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihadihi wa istanna bi sunnatihi wa nas'aluhu ta'ala tawfiq wa sadad wa nashkur. Is it going to be in Arabic or English?
English, Sheikhna.
English, okay. ونسأله تعالى أن يرفع عنا هذه الغمة وأن يهدينا من هذا الشر وأن لا يطيل علينا شدة. Of course, in Saudi Arabia, just like the rest of the world, we are facing this threat of the COVID-19. But Alhamdulillah, our government was very early take caution, and they started the procedures for protecting the people from very early, and this gave fruit, alhamdulillah. The number of deaths from COVID-19 is probably, yesterday I was reading, it is the lowest in the world, alhamdulillah. And of course, people are not very comfortable because they're only allowed to move from 9 to 5. But they can, they do understand, and they know that this is for their protection. We hope, inshallah, not too long in the future, this will be removed, and we are looking forward to Eid without quarantine, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Sheikhna, for that very comforting words and dua for everyone in the entire world. Sheikh Nizam, kind of few words from you about Bahrain in general and the financial sector. If you can start talking about the impacts on the financial sector in Bahrain.
Huh?
I think I didn't hear you.
Sheikh Nizam,
نعم.
can you hear me? Yeah. Can you share with everyone the condition in brief in Bahrain and how the COVID-19 has been impacting the life of the people, particularly the financial, the economics activities and the financial institution in Bahrain in particular? You may also touch on GCC, but up to you.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. أسأل الله تعالى دوام التوفيق والسداد وأن يتقبل منا ومنكم صالح الأعمال. In Bahrain, here, similar to Saudi, we started very early in precautions, alhamdulillah, and the number of cases is very limited. and the number of deaths is very few. There is, alhamdulillah, good response from the general public, both from the national Bahrainis and from the expatriate community, to withhold all the restrictions that the government has put, and banning prayers and public gatherings and all these things, alhamdulillah. So that reduced a lot from the number of total affected and the total death. And as for the economic health, certain measures were taken by the government here. For example, paying the salaries for 3 months of the Bahraini national employees, and freezing the giving a holiday for the loans and for the finance, which was taken for 6 months without any increment for both companies and for individuals, and similar measures, and injecting cash in the economy. Well, alhamdulillah, yani till now there is no sudden impact yet felt, but of course, like every other community, there are hardships to be seen and to be tackled and to be solved, especially from the low-end employees and those who are living from day to day on their livelihood. So there is a lot of measures to help these people. So this is in brief the situation here.
Thank you for sharing that high-level, environment on day-to-day, life living style among our local citizen in Saudi, in Malaysia, perhaps to some extent will be the same in Bahrain. Do you foresee the impact of this COVID-19 to be that massive and pervasive few weeks ago or few months ago, or is something that is beyond your imagination? Perhaps either Sheikh Nizam or the Elgari to comment, just to your mind. Yeah.
Well, it is very difficult to predict the future, but from the way that we are seeing now, like a global trend to slow down and to open up the lockdown, even in countries which were very hardly affected, like Italy and Spain and United States. So it shows that slowly the economic effects will little by little be relieved. However, I don't think that the health element will be relieved soon, because as we predict, the social distancing and wearing of masks and gloves and taking a distance from people, all these things, I think they are here to remain for a while, at least for the coming 6 months. Wallahu a'lam.
Dr. Elgari, any input
Yes.
from your side?
Yes, of course. I mean, it is now a cliche that the world will never be the same again after this COVID-19, and I do think so, because what is going on now in the world is absolutely unprecedented. It has never been happened, not only in our lifetime, but maybe throughout history. I mean, imagine the huge machine of economy all over the world is stopped. I mean, suddenly pause. Yeah. And life has changed in every respect, and it will never come back to be the same as before. There are a lot of things which we don't know now. I mean, when you talk to doctors, when you talk to, the people who are managing the crisis, there are a lot of things they cannot understand, and maybe they don't know, and it is a mystery to them. But as time passes, we will know the secrets, what is exactly is happening, and how this is going to impact the life of everyone. Things will change. The world will never be the same, but I think to the good, because we have been very excessive. I mean, we are destroying our world, actually. Maybe this will give us a breathing space to stop and think that we are going in the wrong direction, and we have to really revise and review and rethink our way of life. And it is going to take some time. I was reading yesterday in one of the American newspapers, and he was saying that masks are here to stay. So it is going to be, I mean, a long time before people feel safe enough, I mean, to really be free of all the restrictions.
Thank you, Dr. Elgari. Thank you, Sheikh Nizam. I think we are here today for about 1 hour or so to discuss on the need, if any, to construct and to craft and to devise a new jurisprudence, if needed, to look into the impacts, the aftermath of COVID-19 in all areas of Islamic financial product and services, banking, insurance, capital market, stock screening, perhaps zakat and wakaf to some extent. So this is a topic that we wanted to open up for the discussion, and we're going to take a few questions from the participants around the globe to get your insight on the topics. But this is about new jurisprudence, and this is about brainstorming. We are not here, of course, to issue any fatwa, any resolution, because that is up to the agencies concerned in every respective country and institution, but just to open up the mind and to have a very informal but informative, insightful discussion on the new jurisprudence. Al-Fiqh al-Jadid or Al-Fiqh al-Virusi, إذا أحببتم, the new jurisprudence to look into the impacts of the economics. Sheikh Nizam mentioned about the government help to provide moratorium for 6 months or perhaps 9 months so that people are not obliged to pay their loan, Islamic or otherwise, to the banks. It's good to hear that both retail and corporate in Bahrain. In Malaysia also, we have the same treatment by the government, who is very much helping the people on the ground that they are not supposed to pay anything in the next 6 months. So the period will be extended without any compounding interest, without any compounding profit, without any additional charges. But I wanted to ask from your perspective, do we have any avenue in Shariah that we can develop the new fiqh, the new jurisprudence to address extreme measures, if any?
Sheikh Nizam.
تفضل دكتور.
تفضلوا.
Of course, when this crisis happened, it posed a challenge at every level. I mean, a challenge to the hospitals, to the medical staff, to education, everything. And also, it posed the challenge to, I don't want to say Sharia, but for Muslims and how they interpret their Sharia. Look, I mean, in almost all Muslim countries, mosques are closed. Prayer at home. In this very important holy month of Ramadan, where people, I mean, enjoy mosques and enjoy going to Taraweeh and, you know, having the blessing of praying together and everything. This is not happening. This is, I mean, really very painful. But again, I think we were able to rise to the challenge by really understanding the objective and the spirit of Sharia, that life is more important than anything else. And even something as valuable and cherished and important as prayer in the mosque, it has to be, I mean, sort of sacrificed to protect the lives of people. So, you know, this crisis has never been faced by Muslims. Of course, Muslims did face plagues, you know, in the 4th century and the 8th century, and in the 14th century, there were plagues where, I mean, people faced this kind of diseases without really understanding them. But something so, I mean, so dangerous, so fast. I mean, very moving in a يعني blinding speed into the whole world in such a devastating way. This is something new, and Alhamdulillah, without any hesitation, all the muftis were able to rise to the challenge and to know and to understand the priorities. You know, they are no longer looking at Sharia in a mechanical way, where just we read the books, I know what and know what is the ruling. No, we have to comprehend and understand and take into consideration the situation we are in and the circumstances and how they should be taken into our minds as we face life. I think it is very important, and it gave us a lesson of a methodology to solve all our problems. We should always understand the situation. We should always be realistic. We should always have our priorities. And Alhamdulillah, inshallah, things will move in the right direction.
Thank you, Sheikh Dr. Elgari. Sheikh Nizam, anything to add, and perhaps your own perspective on the new jurisprudence to attend to the new environment, new landscape that requires different treatment, and perhaps the dosage of the hukum, the ahkam al-fiqhiyya, as the case may be. Over to you, Sheikh.
I'll give you one real example. About 2 years ago, I issued a fatwa that it is permissible to pray nawafil, non-obligatory prayers, behind the haram or behind the live stream television, for those who are at home, women and elderly people, and with certain conditions like the timing being suitable and the possibility of following the imam within a certain few seconds of lapse time, and etc. So that fatwa 2 years ago was, you know, rejected by most people. But now, this year, now there are cumulative bodies, yani fatwa communities in Europe, in Iraq, in many places, and many muftis like Sheikh Daud, Ahmed in Marrakesh, and many scholars, they have also given such fatwa that it is possible to pray behind the live stream television and live broadcast from certain places. And I wrote a paper on this, طرح العيون بأدلة الصلاة خلف التلفاز وخلف بأدلة الصلاة خلف المذياع والتلفزيون.
Yeah, I received your paper last few days. I enjoy reading it. It's a new jurisprudence, which is very, very brave and very new and innovative from that perspective. Perhaps I can come to you in a bit, Sheikh Nizam. Let me go to Sheikh Elgari because Azan is being called in Bahrain. Jeddah, yeah. Basically, you know, the most affected industry is manufacturing in many parts of the world. The SME, the people who are working to produce good and safe. Oh, Azan in Jeddah, sorry. I have to. So they are affected very much by the slowdown of economics, and we have seen some of the central banks of the world, some of the Shariah board of the world, while some of them allowed the companies to get the new financing to settle the old one and to move on for the new one, given the new cost of fund, the new climate of the case, by having even tawaruk to go for the second one, because to help the companies not to collapse, because the moment they collapse, it's not easy for them to come back. In the manufacturing and production in particular, they cannot be collapsing. The moment they collapse, it takes years for them to come back. Some would argue this is not possible. We cannot allow any qalbudain, any new financing to be given, because this is the Sharia perspective, as if we are living in the normal condition. So I wanted to ask a very strict and direct question to you. What do you think, Sheikh? I mean, in regard with this new demand, because they need to work to bring the food to the table, to look into the services and the supply chain of the economy, not the retail one, not the people buying the house, a credit card. This is the people who needs the money to put the money into the machinery to work for the employment, as well as the product to be produced. Any comment on that line of thinking that I wanted to get your feedback and insight, Sheikh Dr. Elgari?
As I said earlier, I mean, this crisis is absolutely unprecedented. And the most interesting thing is the sudden stop of the economic machine. Of course, every industry, every factory, every institution is working on a very, I mean, almost automatic, okay, self-moving type of movement. A small shop, he sells things, get his cash flow, pay his dues to the banks, pay his salary. If they stop suddenly he will not have cash flow. He has no cash flow. He cannot pay salary. He cannot pay his dues to the banks. The banks will take over his business, destroyed. Although the whole problem relates to cash flow. It's not, I mean, his business is viable. He is, feasible. He's doing okay. He's making profit. But suddenly there is no cash flow. And of course, governments realize this, and it appears to me all over, governments are supporting business, especially small businesses. And in the program that has been initiated here in Saudi Arabia, there is a huge amount of support to small business, to big business, to banks. Why? Because this is temporary and will help everyone just to pass through this period where they have no cash flow. And if they stop their business too long, then the industry will be destroyed. And even individuals, I mean, a lot of individuals are in good financial position, they have wealth, but suddenly no salary. And therefore they cannot pay their dues. They cannot even survive, some of them. So you have to help them to go through this period. This is very important. And when it comes to Sharia scholars, they have to understand the situation. Really, I've seen a lot of fatwas where they just pull the ruling of the incident from the books and they apply it without giving consideration to the very different situation we are living in. So, for instance, in some jurisdictions, the customers of the bank, they want extension of time, 6 months. They cannot pay. And the banks are, of course, willing to accommodate, although they prefer that payment is made. They are willing to accommodate. But on the other hand, they don't want to be, to lose, to be, faced with the loss of income by extending this. So I have seen many fatwas that says, no, this is riba, haram. You cannot extend time and get a compensation for this time extension, because this is the riba of jahiliyyah. This is true, of course. I mean, nobody is disputing this, because the riba of jahiliyyah is, give me more time, I'll give you more money. This is what the creditor and the borrower says to each other. But listen, we are not, this cannot be applied to our situation. because the riba of Jahiliyyah is a consensual. I mean, two consenting parties entering into an arrangement in a contract where one is extension time and the other is giving money for this in a normal situation. But here, no, the banks would like and I mean prefer that you pay your dues, but you have no money. And what can I do? Take you to jail? And we're not talking about one or two people. We're talking about tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. And on the other hand, this is the bank is just an intermediary. It is working with other people's money. If you don't pay me profit for your finances, how can I pay profit to my depositors, right? So we have to understand this situation. We have to understand that this is absolutely unprecedented crisis. Now, once we do that, we'll be just like Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Umar al-Khattab, when he was Khalifa, he faced a famine in Medina. And because of this, he stopped applying the ruling of cutting the hand of the thieves, because he said, look, in this situation, most probably anybody who will steal anything, he's doing this because he's hungry, he wants to eat. So I cannot apply this. He didn't change the ruling of Islam, but he has made fatwa to take into consideration the situation he is in. Okay, this is the dynamic thinking of Sharia. This is where Sharia is alive. Okay, meeting the situation in which people are. We are not changing the ruling. The ruling is there. It's correct, but we cannot ignore the situation we are in. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu, he was the ruler of Mesopotamia, sort of, at the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. And he himself narrates from the Prophet hadith that says that Muslim cannot inherit from Kafir, and Kafir cannot inherit from Muslim. لا يتوارث أهل ملتين. Now he said, look, if we apply this, the people who are entering Islam now, the first generation are the young. The wealth is held by the old, by the fathers. Now, if we say that to the young people, you cannot inherit from your father, what will happen? Either they do not enter Islam, or all the wealth will go to the children who did not enter Islam, and then our Muslims. He said, I will stop this ruling. He didn't change it. No, he cannot change Sharia. But he has taken into consideration the situation we are in. So going back to the banking, how banks are dealing with this crisis. Here in Saudi, we have give the banks a fatwa that they can arrange it with the customer that he will enter into another transaction after the crisis is over, so that through the another murabaha, for instance, the bank is compensated for the lost profit. This is fair. لا ضرر ولا ضرار. I mean, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh. I think very interesting and intervention that you have made just now from the conceptual perspective and the practical experience. I've heard also the Pakistani central bank has allowed the same thing by entering into a new tawaruk contract to recoup the previous expected profit, if any, for the refinancing of the financing in that part of the world. And thank you very much for sharing your thought quite freshly and open, which is very, very clear to everyone. So thank you very much, the participant, for joining us. I wanted to move now to Sheikh Nizam. Sheikh Nizam, perhaps you can comment on the same line of question that I have posed. Perhaps you may also include in your comment some of the questions from the viewers. They were asking whether can we consider this as act of God, afat samawiyah, or what sort of consideration, darurah, hajah, and what would be the Shariah mind in looking into this kind of crisis that we are having at the current time. Sheikh, fatafadal.
Shukran. First of all, I thank all the brothers and sisters who are sending me greetings and Ramadan greetings and all these things. I am sorry I both at the same time. So please accept this as my response to your greeting. I agree with our respected Sheikh, Dr. Elgari, that this is an unprecedented situation. You can consider it آفة سماوية, you can consider it جائحة, you can consider it ضرورة, you can consider it حاجة. All of these together are in one basket in this case, because it is something, as he said, very, very unprecedented. So I think in this situation, we have given in certain institutions fatwas that if the central bank or the regulatory authority in any jurisdiction reaches a solution which is fair for both parties, we should accept that and do not dispute it. So I think this is a very good solution, that if the central bank with the and especially those central banks who have central Sharia committees, so if they reach a decision and they give it to all the institutions, and they should do it on an equal footing between both Islamic and conventional institutions, so that there wouldn't be any arbitrage between this and that. So I think this is the best solution. In jurisdictions and in areas where there is no such regulatory body available, then we have to depend on these fatwas, and we have to take into consideration all these things. يعني لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. The whole verse of riba is ended with قوله تعالى لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. Riba, which is prohibited, is conditional in the start, in the beginning, in the contract. But here we don't have that. The contract is not riba. But now we are talking about how to solve this disaster, how to solve this jaiha, how to solve this problem, how to solve this emergency. So I agree with what Sheikh Elgari has said, and we have to think outside the box. But the best solution is to come through the regulatory central banks and the higher Sharia authorities, and they should take into consideration لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. To issue a fatwa, like some brothers did, that all this is haram. You have no right to take one false increment on any. Okay, then every bank will go bankrupt, and all the financial institutions will go bankrupt, and all the shops and the businesses will go bankrupt. Is this a solution for the problem? We all know that you are not allowed to take increment for time in a loan contract, yes, but this is something else. This is something new. This is something disaster. This is something which needs to be solved. So I agree with Dr. Elgari what he said 100%. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. Barakallah fiqh. Thank you for sharing your point of view. Quite direct on that issue. I have some issue as well. In some part of the world, without putting the name of the jurisdiction, they have given the instruction to go the moratorium, but at the same time they ask the bank to pay the profit sharing for the mudarabah account. So it can be done. Of course, there's no issue, no harm for the bank to still paying the dividend for the depositors. But any comment on that? Because we need to be la tazlimuna wa la tuzlamun in that case. Perhaps you may have your own comment. Should we look into the liability side as well as the asset side of the bank? Any comments?
Of course, we have to. Because if the bank is paying the profit to depositors, to the mudaraba accounts holders, from where? It is paying from the profit it is making on the other side of the balance sheet. Now, if you say, okay, you have to continue paying artificial profit to mudaraba account holders, but not charging the borrowers, the other side of the balance sheet, anything for the next 9 months, effectively you are saying take from the capital of the bank, take from the shareholders' money and pay to these people. But why? Of course, some people justify this by saying, فَإِنْ كَانَ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ فَنَظِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ. This is, again, another mechanical way of looking at this. These people are not in عسرة. المعسر هو من لا يمتلك شيء يستطيع أن يعني. But these people have assets, they have wealth, they are okay in every respect, except that they have a cash flow problem. And there is no justification whatsoever to take from shareholders' money, from the capital of the bank, and give to Mudaraba account holders artificially, because we are not allowed to charge. But alhamdulillah, I think in most jurisdictions, the regulators have either permitted to the bank to make certain arrangements where it is compensated, or the bank has been supported by the government by injecting a certain amount of cash to compensate for the situation. But I'm really surprised at the people who, rather than support this kind of solutions, this kind of procedures that are fair, and as Sheikh Nizam said, لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. This is what it meets the spirit, the objective of Sharia. Rather than supporting these procedures and justifying them, they keep hammering on, this is haram, this is riba, and you how ignorant can you be? I was listening to one mufti who was saying, how can you close the mosque? Then you are afraid of the virus more than you are afraid from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is shirk. Hasbunallah. How far can you go in ignorance? Now, I think the situation we are in is posing a great challenge, and we have to live up to the challenge. When the plagues in the 8th century, 14th century came to Muslims did not know the virus and the germs and these things. So they were saying, this is jinn. Jinn is creating this. And they are facing the challenge by all the kind of dua and salah for against the jinn. And now we have more information about what is really happening. And we have to understand this is an incident of nature. It is a crisis. It is darura. It is jaiha. It is, as Sheikh Nizam said, it can be any one of these, and it has to be met as so. Okay? Not trying to pretend that nothing is happening. We open the book. What is the ruling of extending time and it is haram riba, khalas, this is riba. No. This is dead Sharia. This is not living Sharia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Sheikh Nizam, I wanted to, check with you on the other dimension of the financial, Islamic finance, which is capital market. Of course, everyone knows that we need to screen the stock, and we are using either total asset or market cap as the denominator to see the level of debt to equity ratio and the level of indebtedness and what have you, impure income and so on and so forth. Do you think that we need to relook urgently into the denominator, because assets of the companies have gone quite badly in the next few months, the first quarter and the second quarter, and the same go to market cap as well, though market cap could be very much relevant to the stock market of the world, but total asset will definitely go down. So any comment on that, because that will affect our Islamic stock universe as we move forward. If you don't change anything, that could affect the number of Islamic universe in the whole entire world. Please, Sheikh.
I think that is a valid point, and maybe the Sharia scholars and muftis of these indices should take into consideration a freezing point before the crisis, and consider it as the default point until, for example, 1 year or 18 months or something like that, until things smooth down. So I think that is a good solution to do, because otherwise, as you have mentioned, in the coming 2 quarters, there will be lots of changes and lots of disruption. And as you yourself, Sheikh, know that the Sharia scholars has accepted long time ago the average, trailing average of the companies, because to prevent unexpected fluctuations in prices and crises and these things. So I think adding even to that, because we have 24 months trailing average or 12 months trailing average, we can, and also on top of that, in my view, to freeze the screening for that particular financials in a point before the crisis, and leave it like that for a while, say 1 year or 18 months or whatever the Sharia scholars of these indices find suitable. This is my humble view.
Thank you, Sheikh. Thank you again, the participant, for being with us and for posing a number of questions. I tried to take some of them and will ask the scholars to comment on those questions. I think one of them would be, what would be the next sector of investment and financing to revive the economy? So in your learned point of view, what would be the new focus of Islamic Finance moving forward? Investment, SME, manufacturing, food, health, education, I don't know what. So perhaps based on your own experience, surely you are well connected to business owners and business community in your respective country. You have been talking to them, to the bankers, CEO, board of directors, the regulator, the policy makers. So perhaps we can get your input and insight, not only for your respective country, for Malaysia, but Indonesia, beyond. What would be the new advice for Islamic Finance to focus on in the next 6 months to 1 year, perhaps? Anyone?
I can share with you 2 experiences.
Okay.
Which will show the trend for you.
Okay.
Experience number 1, we wanted to establish an online university for certain Islamic sciences, which we think it is underserved. Okay. And I don't want to mention the names, but certain ministers of education in the area, they were refusing the concept of online higher education, and they were making lots of obstacles. But now in this crisis, all of them have signed online for their schools and for all the. So I think this is the way forward. Anything online for all people. Number 2, the people have found through this crisis that they actually don't need to go to markets. They can order everything, and there are lots of supermarkets and retail stores that are flourishing actually. Because they have deliveries and they have online activities. So I think the future will be anything which is online. You should look at that.
So how do you relate that to Islamic Finance, Sukuk Fund? Because I mean, we're coming from the Islamic Finance perspective. How could our Islamic Finance institution be part of this new industry, Sheikh? Education online and delivery, and I don't know what happening now.
They should initiate and they should encourage investment in universities and online industries and all these services, which people are finding very helpful and very useful, and they don't need to go out. And of course, in America and Europe and other places, this is very developed, and in our area, it is catching up now also. So, you can order something and get it the next day, and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
If you want to invest in Zoom. I was reading the other day an article by a chairman of an education organization in the USA, and he was saying, I don't see classrooms in the future of education. So it is going to be this fundamental change. And furthermore, here in Saudi, the Minister of Human Resources have issued an order to all government offices, permanent, not crisis related, that they have to identify 20% at least of their employees. These are going to work at home permanently. So changes are taking place. And the area where investment potential is probably attractive now is this thing like Zoom and other media, conference facilitation, equipment and these things. And of course, health. First of all, health is going to be a challenge facing countries for many years to come. And secondly, suddenly, because of the crisis, many countries, even countries that are advanced and developed, they realize that they don't have sufficient facilities to face any crisis. So this is an area of investment that is going to be attractive in the future. I expect that the whole structure of delivering medical services will be different. Will be taken to a new stage of development and potentially creating opportunities for investment.
Okay. If we were to relate to our main function as the Shariah advisors on many boards of the world, we need to ensure the compliant, the true blue, adherent to the Shariah principle during and pre, during and post activities. So how do we cope now, Sheikh, moving forward to deliver our jobs more efficiently? Some people are asking us now, how do you monitor, how do you control, how do you ensure that the fatwa will be followed thoroughly, you don't travel that much, you don't interact that much? So perhaps there could be new ways of installing a new mechanism, algorithm, if you like, to ensure a better version of Sharia compliance and adherence, pre and during and post activities. Perhaps you have some idea, because people are worried, the lawyers, the auditors and the Sharia advisors, part of them, in terms of the quality of control and check and balance, and also the assurance of whatever compliance is needed.
I'd like to actually pose the question to Amanie. I think Amanie is in a position to really come up with innovative ideas of how to improve the process of Sharia advisory in a situation like the one we are facing now and we are going to be facing in the near future. Now, we had meetings in the last few weeks. All our meetings are through Zoom and Microsoft Teams and these things.
Yeah.
And we are realizing that this is very productive. Very productive. It's not as good as face-to-face meeting, but it does the job. And I feel that it is going to be around later after the crisis. But then we need to improve the supervision of the Sharia board when we are communicating distance. Many countries, many jurisprudence are coming up with new rules for governance in banks, and they're emphasizing the function of Sharia audit, Sharia control, and they are requiring banking institutions to have dedicated staff for this purpose. This actually will complement the function of Sharia board to the extent that maybe now we can supervise from a distance. But please, for Amanie, you should give it some thought, because I don't see any other institution that is positioned to come up with innovative ideas when it comes to Sharia supervisory.
Inshallah, Sheikhna, we try to take your challenge to make it happen and feasible in the near future. Of course, we believe very much in AI, artificial intelligence, to use the algorithm to work on its own to detect and to create and to find out the potential breach and the actual breach and what to be done if someone were to breach the principle of Shariah. This is in theory, but in practice, we need to put some resources, some time. Then we take your challenge, inshallah. Sheikh Nizam, do you have any different point of view, or you think that this is our new normal, we need to continue doing this forever, or this could be enhanced to ensure that we are there next to them, though we are not next to them, we are next to them to ensure the CEO, the board of directors, and what have you are very much compliant, conscious to our Sharia fatwa and resolution.
Well, I think that this crisis has shown that it is possible to manage things from distance and to run businesses from distance and to run such meetings and conferences from distance. But also, in my view, it has proven the other side, that human interaction is very important, and that only through distance is very dull, and it doesn't show the feelings and the real thoughts behind people when they interact physically. So I think we need both of them. We need to learn all these tools and techniques and to be able to, so maybe the balance between the two is something going forward, to have real and physical meetings and discussions and conferences and teaching and learning and supervision, and at the same time also to have the certain amounts of distance and long and online activities as we have in this situation. So the balance between both is important. Some brothers are talking here in their messages that you don't talk about inequality and about I don't know what and about poor this and I think these are matters that all of us agree upon. But how to implement them? It is not in your hand or my hand or this hand or that hand. It is in the hand of the governments and the countries. Whatever we can do and help in that matter, we will do. But we are talking about specific matters that affect the industry now at this particular time. At this very moment. So if you want us now to solve the inequality in the world through this conference, I think we have to stay for more than 10, 20, 30 more years. Yeah.
Thank you, Sheikh Nizam. We have about 5 to 10 minutes to wrap up the whole session, but I would like to focus a bit on Islamic social finance. Sheikh Nizam started already, and some of the brothers have been asking the question, but I wanted to be specific rather than opening up the whole discussion. Dr. Elgari and Sheikh Nizam, can we bring forward zakat next year to this year just to focus on the beneficiaries who need the assistance more this year by looking into the average zakat payment of any company? Can take the lowest average and bring whatever zakat to this year, or any other creativity, Sharia creativity to give more help?
All Sharia boards and Sharia zakat bodies have given ruling and fatwa that advancing zakat is possible, and it has a very strong evidence from the story of Sayyidina al-Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when the Prophet ﷺ took 2 years in advance of zakat of al-Abbas, and then you calculate each year and you see if you had given more, then the balance will be for the next year, and if you given less, then you have to make up the balance. So I think from fatwa point of view, this is a solved issue. It remains from practical point of view and accounting point of view and etc. how to solve it and how to find a solution for it.
Thank you, Sheikh Nizam. Dr. Elgari,
yes. I agree with Sheikh Nizam. Of course, it is. I think well established in jurisprudence that it is allowed to advance. Of course, the zakat of next year is not due yet, but you can advance it. and then settle when it is due. Okay, but I think the challenging question is the receivers of zakah, because the crisis have created certain group of people who are in need of money. But if you think about them, they cannot fit under any of the masarif al-zakah. Okay. Now, in several countries, maybe other countries, but here in Saudi Arabia, the central bank have encouraged the banks to establish a fund. Okay. And the fund purpose is to help those who were affected by the coronavirus. Now, this is not a description of the poor or the needy or the other masarif al-zakah. It's a description of a new class of people who are in hardship. Okay, who are in hardship. This is not the zakah. This is a contribution in the fund from the banks. But a lot of people are asking, can we pay zakat in a fund like this? You see, which is meeting the challenge of helping those who are affected by the crisis, but they can hardly fit into the masarif al-zakah. These kind of questions that need to be addressed by scholarly research, and because again, this is going to be around for a long time, and we have to meet all the challenges.
Okay, we have so many questions from our brothers and sisters asking whether we could give zakat to non-Muslim again affected by coronavirus, perhaps related to what Sheikh Elgari was saying just now. Can we look into the beneficiaries and one new group and the new jurisprudence to be given some attention? Perhaps I have to ask this question because we have more than 6 questions asking, can we start giving zakat even to non-Muslim without looking into the religion, looking into the need of the community?
From the point of view that these are in such a hardship, and relieving them is something which everybody is aspiring to, and especially if they are needy and poor and they have no any other sources to fund their relief and their health relief. Yeah, and many scholars allow it from Bab al-Mu'allafati Qulubuhum. And also some scholars who view that the masraf fi sabilillah means all kinds of charity, like Al-Imam Al-Razi, and actually there are some hadith in Al-Adab Al-Mufrad, Al-Bukhari, and other books of hadith that interpret fi sabilillah to be any charitable cause and any accepted charitable cause. So from that point of view, yes, you can give them, inshallah.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that is, I mean, coming up with the COVID-19 crisis is opportunities to really show the world that Islam, I mean, the compassionate face of Islam. Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam يقول بعثت بالحنيفية السمحة, samha, very tolerant, very easy, very loving, very compassionate. So this is our religion. Our religion has been, I mean, subjected to unfair campaign by certain quarters. It is an opportunity to show the real Islam. And I think I agree with Sheikh Nizam, although nothing comes to my mind right now. But I think there is a possibility to find Sharia justification for giving help to those who are affected by the crisis, even though if they are, I mean, I'm living and my neighbor was devastated. He has no salary, he has no pension, he has nothing. He's going after the garbage cans to eat. As a Muslim, this is an opportunity to show that I am compassionate, that there is mercy around here. And giving it from zakah probably needs something that for Majama Fiqhiyya needs to look into and really come up with something that satisfies this now.
Okay, thank you.
And
Yes,
to add to what Dr. Elgari has said, you can see that in many European countries and even in America, many doctors and nurses and those who are in frontline response who passed away were all Muslims, and that had a lot and a big effect on the communities, that these people are sacrificing their lives and sacrificing themselves in order to help somebody whom they don't know, somebody who's not from their religion or from their, even not from their ethnicity or community or whatever. So, I mean, that had a lot of effect. And you have seen that many cities, they have accepted adhan and they accepted many things like that.
thank you, Sheikh Nizam, and thank you, Datuk Ali Elgari. We have come to the end of the session. Surely 1 hour session is not sufficient, to be honest, with these two distinguished and esteemed scholars of the world. They have been working on this area for the last 30 years, a lot of experience, knowledge, and insight. But we have to, stop the session within 1 hour. I would like to thank all the participants who have registered from day one. We have to say sorry for those who cannot come in because we are limiting up to 500 participants, but inshallah we try to increase the capacity in the future. And before we end the session, it is always good to give the 1 minute each for each scholar to share their words of wisdom, advice, motivation, inspiration, as far as new jurisprudence is concerned, as we move forward to reblock and reconstruct the whole world according to Shariah and according to Shariah, which is, I quote the Elgari, realistic and not mechanical. Perhaps I will start with Sheikh Nizam first and followed by the Elgari.
Well, I think any alim or any mufti who wants to give fatwa in such a situation should be humble enough not to rely only on his own knowledge, but to take the collective knowledge of his other peer scholars and to study the situation very carefully, and also to look forward to what will be the effects of his fatwa on the entire world. We are not now everybody is talking that we are one country or one village. There is nothing in this pandemic. I mean, it proves that we are all in one boat. So if the boat goes down, we all go down.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Amanie very much for giving me this opportunity, and would like to thank you, Dr. Daud, especially for this. And we have to remember that, Alhamdulillah, Islam now is everywhere. I mean, questions are coming from the United States by thousands and hundreds of thousands of Muslims asking about the program that the American government has initiated to help the small business and others. So the business of fatwa now is very important, and the Mufti has to be knowledgeable in the real world he's living in, and not only in the small town he knows most of the people in. He has to be a world class, some exposed to changes taking place anywhere before he does give fatwa. Thank you very much again, and I hope we have another opportunity to have a debate like this. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. On behalf of Amanie Media, we would like to thank both Datuk Ali Elgari and Sheikh Nizam Yaquby for spending their valuable time with us, with all the participants around the globe. And we have to thank all the participants for taking the time with us. We are your support. This event is not going to be successful. We hope to see you again in the next webinar series on many other topics that look into global perspective, realistic perspective, constructive perspective to bring the best of the best to the whole world. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, do whatever we can to help the citizens of the world to recover and to fight against our common enemy, coronavirus, COVID-19. Stay tuned and we meet again, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa
عليكم
rahmatullahi
السلام ورحمة الله.
wa barakatuh.